I hope that this works. Hello everybody. It has been a while. Probably at least 2 months, I'm pretty sure. But I am filming another video. It's just taking a long time because I have not had time to read. But this video is going to be a wrap-up of all of the books that I read in January. The majority of the books that I read in February were audiobooks, which I still count as reading books. Some people don't, but I do. So I actually don't even know how many books I read this month. Let me just count really quick. Okay, so technically I read 12 books in the month of January, but one of them I read in January but finished on February 1st. So I'm counting it in this video because I am. Majority of the book that I read was in January. I probably read the last few chapters February 1st. So let's just jump right in. The first books that I listened to this year was The Summer I Turned Pretty series by Jenny Han. So that's The Summer I Turned Pretty, It's Not Summer Without You, and We'll Always Have Summer. I have always wanted to read these books, but wasn't super excited about it because I generally don't like romance books, and that's exactly what these are. But I thought I would give it a try because they were available in the library app. Pretty much, that was the only reason. So I listened to the first one and I really, really liked it. I rated it a 4 out of 5, which is really good. I can't even tell you my real opinions on it because the 3 books kind of just blend together into one in my brain, even though it was only a month ago. It feels like years ago. If you don't know what this series is about, it's pretty much about a girl named Belly, that's her nickname, and she goes to this like beach house every summer where she has her family friends. They're just friends technically. It's her mom's best friend and her sons. And there's a love triangle and drama and family problems, and it's all very, very interesting and heart-touching and relatable at some points, the way she's feeling. That's all I really have to say about it. It was good. Then the second book, It's Not Summer Without You, I rated 4.25. And then the third book I rated 3.75. That one to me, it just was rushed and felt... there could have been a better ending. Okay? Then the next book I also listened to was Good Habits, Bad Habits by Wendy Wood. I rated it 3 out of 5, but if I'm going to be honest with you, I don't even remember this book. I wanted to read Atomic Habits, but it was not available anywhere, in any bookstores, at the library, online, or anything like that. So I listened to this book called Good Habits, Bad Habits, trying to find a way to make better habits and things like that. But I didn't learn anything, and it was super repetitive. It was more like personal stories from a whole bunch of other people. It wasn't actually like this is what you need to do to break or make habits. And that's what I was looking for. That's just not what I got out of the book. But if you are looking for something to relate to, this would be a good book for you. My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. I don't know if you know about this book, but now you do. Go read it. I listened to it. It was honestly such a good book. Did not know what I was getting into when I started reading the book, and I'm so glad I did because it is such a culture shock, even though you're not there. you're there. It was so easy to just see everything happening and feel the emotions that the characters were feeling. If you don't know what this book is about, it's about the main character. I honestly don't remember her name, and I remember not knowing her name for like half the book because it rarely said it. But it's about the main character who is a young girl, and then she grows up. That's what the story is about. But it's about her and her friendship with her best friend. Who would have thought? And it kind of talks about going through school when you don't have all the money in the world, and family problems, and boys, and things like that. Okay. So I rated it 4.25, I believe. The only thing, 4.5. So pretty much there was nothing that I didn't like. It was just so long. The book was so long. Anyway, then the first book that I actually read physically was Vow of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. So I read Vow of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. If you haven't heard of this book, I don't know how. It's the second book in the Dance of Thieves duology. It is a fantasy romance, which I generally don't like. But I read Dance of Thieves in 2023, and I really, really liked it, but it took me a while to get through. And then I did actually start reading this in 2023, and then I went on my trip and never picked up this book the entire time that I was there. And it was so slow, and I was not enjoying it. It was more like I was in a book slump. I didn't feel like picking up this book. So I finally finished it in January, and it was really, really good. I rated it 4 out of 5. It would be a 5 out of 5, except for there were some parts that were confusing, and I was like, hang on, I need to like go back and reread because I have no idea who we're following and what the heck's going on. But other than that, and the fact that it took me forever, which is not the book's fault, just mine, it was a really good book, and I totally recommend this duology if you like romance or fantasy. It was super good, and the characters were so likable and easy to understand. The villains, the bad guys, the antagonists were the most perfect antagonists. I don't even know how to explain it. It's really good, and honestly, I would reread it. I would like to reread it as if it was the first time I'm reading it. You know? Then, the next book that I read, or the next 2 books I actually listened to. The first one was Don't Keep Your Day Job by Cathy Heller. I rated it 3.5 out of 5. Once again, I don't really remember this book. It was super short. It only took me 3.5 hours to listen to. And I thought that it was going to be something like how to branch off on your own and not be a little worker bee, you know? And that's essentially what it was, but it was more like how to do what you love and make money off of it. But it wasn't how to. It was, here's stories of people doing it. Which was essentially the same thing as Good Habits, Bad Habits. So I guess it wasn't necessarily a bad book. It was just that I had the wrong... I wasn't prepared for that book. That's not what I thought I was getting into. The next one was How to Argue with a Racist, which, once again, I thought was going to be how to argue with a racist. Like, if someone says something racist, how to combat what they're saying, or how to tell them that they're wrong. And it wasn't really it wasn't a step-by-step, if they say this back. it was really, really scientific and informational. It talked about like genes and phenotypes, which is what you look like, your physical traits, if you don't know. And I actually just learned a whole bunch about that kind of stuff in school. So listening to this book was super interesting, and I was very intrigued while I was listening to it, learning the history of genotypes and phenotypes in different cultures, especially of cultures that I'm not surrounded by often. I rated it 3.25. Sorry, my camera likes to just stop randomly. I don't know why. I need to fix it. Anyway, so I rated How to Argue with a Racist 3.75, which is pretty much a 4-star. It was very good. I recommend it if you are wanting to learn about cultural differences and scientific cultural differences is a better way to phrase it, I guess. The next 3 books, the next 3 books that I'm going to talk about are part of a series. I don't plan on finishing the series because I've already read it like 4 times, and I was just rereading it for a school project. So that is The Bad Beginning, The Reptile Room, and The Wide Window, all by Lemony Snicket. These books are part of a series of unfortunate events. If you don't know what this series is about, it is about a group of children called the Baudelaires. They are orphans. That is not a spoiler. It happens in literally the first chapter of the first book. Their parents die in a fire that also burns their house down, so then they are sent to live with their closest relative. Their geographically closest relative, not their closest relative, whose name is Count Olaf, and he is a terrible human being. And then the story pretty much goes from there. He's a horrible person and treats the children terribly. And then each book is him trying to steal their money, because the Baudelaire parents were super, super rich, and then the money was left to the oldest child when she turns 18. So pretty much Count Olaf's whole goal is to steal all their money. And honestly, these books are meant for middle school aged kids. But I've heard that they are studied in universities thoroughly. I sticky noted the first 3 because I was doing it for a class project. And I highly recommend every single one of these books. Honestly, when you start the first one, you're like, okay, yeah, this is good. The second one, so much more, it's not necessarily so much more amazing, but it's better. The third one is not as good. At the end, it gets really good. The fourth one is just gloomy. As they go on, it just gets better. There's more excitement. Things are happening, and there's so much suspense. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you read all. There's 13 books, by the way. But they're super big font, and they're easy to get through. I could read all of them in a week if I wanted to. I highly recommend these books. I rated every single one of them 5 stars. Please read these books. Okay? And then we have the second last book, which was Divine Rivals, which you will see my thoughts on in a future video. I'm just going to say I didn't think that I was going to like this book, and all I'm going to say is that I'm wrong. I'm not going to tell you what I rated it because you can go watch the other video to find out, but I highly recommend this book. Last but not least, we have Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score, which I actually read on my Kindle, which I love, by the way, even though it's super dirty and looks like I don't love it. And I'm currently reading the second book, which is Things We Had from the Light. Things We Never Got Over, is that what it's called? Yes, it is. Was a really good book. I honestly was only reading it because I heard so many people online, on YouTube, talking about it, saying like, oh, this is such a good book, and that the third book is bad, but I want to see for myself. So I read it, and it was really freaking good. And I generally don't like romances because they're ooey gooey, and I'm not really into ooey gooey. But I rated it 4.5. Okay? Because yeah, there's a whole bunch of spice. Okay? That's a warning. There's a whole bunch of it. But when that's not happening, and even when that is happening, honestly, there is so much romance and like chemistry between the two main characters, and then the aspect of the main character's niece and their relationship, and the relationship between the niece and the boy. It's just amazing. And then the family aspects, and then the mystery parts. It's just so good. Highly recommend it if you like romances. If you don't like romances or spice, do not read this book. It will not be for you. But that being said, those are all of the books that I read in January. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry that I don't have the physical books for the majority of the books that I read. But please like and subscribe and comment if you have any book or video recommendations. I am always open. And I will see you in the next video.